salt is a huge issue for people who own property across the country. You're not seeing, the local taxes go down, right? As home values continue to go up, and local governments look to fund priorities. Sometimes even as you're seeing the federal government shrink, what they're looking to do, right? You're going to need to see some of the local governments pick up the slack, and the way they do that is through property taxes. Sure. So I know living here in the DC area, both the valuation and the assessment went up on properties in the county that I live in this year. So it's been a while since we've seen that, and it's coming to you.
Well, talk to me about what the Alliance is doing. We should be clear. You're a 50C4 advocacy organization, so you can actually engage in lobbying and political activities. Do you have force behind this right now? Are you calling lawmakers about this?
That is correct. We're working to make sure that what we've seen is the House has given us a good provision here with $40,000 in SALT relief. That would cover most of what you'd see from a property owner. And what we were urging is for the Senate to finish the job here.
Yeah. Keep it where it is. Do you like the deal struck in the House?
The deal in the House is a good deal, and it'll cover, again, what we're looking at here is property taxes for the vast majority of Americans.
Well, listen, if you're lobbying this issue, you know more about this than anybody who's reading or hearing anything. You're on the front lines of the debate. What are you hearing from the Senate? Are they actually going to keep this intact? Because you know what the line is. There's no such thing as a SALT state in the Senate. If you're a senator, if you're a Republican senator, your state's not too worried about this issue right now.
Yeah. So what we're hearing, and I'd say look towards, the person that I've looked to recently is Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Not just because I like what he's saying about salt.
He's afraid of making big changes as a former congressman, I think, isn't he?
And I think look to him as a good gauge here, right? That he is still very in touch. He's a relatively new senator. Yeah. Been there for about 2.5 years and still has really good connections with the House leadership, especially on the Ways and Means Committee and the leadership of the House. So I think he is having those conversations and in a really good position to be a gauge for what the House may or may not be able to do from the Senate.
I wasn't kidding when I was talking to Tyler. When we do SALT stories, they become the most read on the terminal. When I talk about it on the air, all of a sudden my terminal lights up. I get email, I get tweets, because so many Bloomberg viewers and listeners understand this story, and so many are impacted by it. If you're living in a state, though, where you do not have high property taxes, and they're talking about a blue state bailout, what's the answer to that? Because this is the debate we're in.
So I think one of the things, and try to illustrate that a little earlier, right, is that as we are continuing to see the value of homes appreciate, right, we're undersupplied, we're not building enough new supply is not coming onto the market. What we're seeing is that the values of homes continue to get more and more expensive. Sure. And I'd say as you look to the federal government maybe shrinking some of the responsibilities that they're looking at, a lot of those services are not necessarily going to go away, right? They're going to go to the states, they're going to go to the localities. And the biggest way that those organizations, those units of government fund their priorities is through taxes on property. So I'd say as we continue to see these increasing valuations and local property taxes going up, this is an issue that is going to creep across the country.
Well, you don't only have your ear on this debate on Capitol Hill, you have your ear on the market. That's the reason why you exist at the Alliance. And I want to follow up on what you just mentioned, because it's really interesting looking at the dynamics in this market. And we had new numbers by Redfin that you probably saw. Axios published today. A buyer's market, if you can afford it. There are nearly 500,000 more home sellers than buyers in the U.S. housing market. How long can this last?
So I think, and I was listening, actually, funny enough, this morning on the way in, listening to a podcast with Logan Mohtashami from Housing Wire, kind of looking at that. And I think debunked maybe some of the numbers. I think his exact comment was, "I'm going to give this a yellow card." Unclear where that number is coming from, right? I think it may be a proprietary formula from Redfin, but definitely something that you're seeing there. And what we may be seeing is maybe not this like imminent crash of 20 to 40% that I think you'll see some of the trolls on online talking about.
When we use these kind of hackneyed terms, is that not true?
I think we're probably coming back into more of an alignment, right? Where you're having a little bit more supply coming online, and buyers are coming out and saying, hey, maybe I understand that interest rates are not coming back down to 3 or 4%. I'm going to take advantage of where I am. I still have my job is good. I've had a change in my life circumstance, right? We've had a kid, I've gotten married, whatever it is, and I do feel that the time now is right and that we're in a pretty good
What would
economic
happen? We
situation.
can't all live our lives around interest rates and whatever. You get a job, sometimes you got to move, or sometimes you need to or want to move. What happens if the Fed starts to cut? What if we get 50 basis points this year or more? What would that do to the market?
I think you would see an immediate interest in folks getting in and buying
People
mortgages,
start listing
right?
and buying. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that is very much, some of the folks who may be sitting on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that we talk about on the capital gains side, is that you've got especially older, longer tenured folks who've lived in their homes for a long time, may want to take advantage of getting in there and selling a property if they've been locked in,
Sure.
For a long time, and say, yeah, maybe I'll downsize now. It makes sense, where
You've been
it
nailed in
didn't.
place for a long time.
Exactly, where it didn't make sense at 6.5%, maybe it makes more sense at 5.5%.
You're telling us you think salt stays where it is when it comes back to the house?
I think it's certainly open for debate, right?
Wait a minute.
I used to be where I came from.
Yeah.
Was that I would start off and say, I think the Senate is kind of they'd take the House bill, send it back, and say, you guys can eat whatever we passed, right?
Yes, exactly. Will the Senate try to jam the House again?
I really feel like you saw
that
this
could
bill
bring the rapture.
You saw this bill pass with one vote,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
I think we're just in a fundamentally different spot here. I feel good. I've heard a number of different things mentioned, but I'm going to follow Senator Mullins' lead on this one and say I think we're in a good spot.